So, let me, and I get fearful because maybe the Lord's calling someone here into ministry. Don't ever go into ministry if your mother tells you you should be a minister. Don't go into ministry if your friends say you'd make a good minister. You only go into ministry if God calls you to go into ministry. But anyway, I got statistics. Here's the life of the pastor. 84% of pastors, so here, I have to tell you this ahead of time. Only 10% of pastors that start in the ministry end in the ministry. 90% quit, okay? So keep that in the back of your mind for a second. 84% of pastors feel they're on call 24/7. I was like, well, obviously these people aren't called into the ministry, these 84%. And the other 16% are. Because if you work for the Lord, guess what? You're on call 24/7. Do you understand that? Like if a man comes up to me and I think the Lord's calling me into ministry. It's always fascinating. I can't tell you how many men I interviewed for ministry and women for support roles. And they go, Pastor Joe, I'm only working 40 hours, 45 hours a week. I'm like, you aren't called into ministry. If that's what you want, go work in the world. Can you imagine the apostles telling Jesus, well, when's my 40-hour section starting? What are my hours? What's my pay? It's like, I'm like, you aren't cut out for the ministry if you start telling the Lord, here's when I'm available and here's when I'm not. Okay? This next one, 70% of pastors report they do not have someone they can call a close friend. These people that say that, they shouldn't be in ministry either. And why is that? Who is the best friend of a minister called into ministry? Jesus! I'm like, it is Jesus. He is my best friend. I can't, I know that in our district, it's somewhere between 50 and 3/4 of pastors are depressed, and many of them say they don't have a good friend. I'm like, Jesus is my best friend. And then on top of that, I even think to myself, look, Jesus is my best friend. Guess who my second best friend is? My wife. I'm like, what is wrong with these pastors? Like, surely, all right, so you're telling me Jesus isn't your best friend, that you're hanging out with him and he's walking with you every day and talking with you and you're in his word. But now you're also saying your wife's not your close friend. I'm like, totally, you are not cut out for ministry. I mean, let me see here. 90% of clergy in all denominations will not stay in ministry to reach a retirement age, from the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics. Long ago, I had this, it's like 35 years old. They took a picture of all the pastors in our district, and I have it. I like looking at it, but I can just tell you, I cannot tell you how many are out of ministry, have not survived. In fact, about 80% of men who feel they're called into ministry are out within the first 10 years of ministry. 40% of pastors have major conflict in their church each month. So I want you to keep that in mind for a second. 1,500 to 1,700 clergy leave pastoral ministry each month. 1,300 of the 1,500 were terminated, were fired by their church. Many without cause. 83% of clergy spouses, I was discussing this with my wife this morning, want their spouse to leave the ministry. And my wife was like, you have to find a wife who loves the Lord as much and is as much as part of the ministry as the husband is.